All right. Sorry for any confusion there. I was trying to use that stages stuff, but it didn't seem like there's a chat associated with it. And also, maybe I'm dumb, but I wasn't seeing like sharing screen and video options. So I'll have to look into that more. I went with a. I'm using my smaller screen resolution this time, so hopefully people watching on a phone can see stuff a little bit clearer. All right. Okay, I think everything's set. But so how's everyone doing? I know it's been a few weeks since we've done office hours or coffee with Eric or whatever we're calling this. This last week or for about the last 6 days, I was up in Minnesota with my parents. They have a little cabin up there, so I was helping them chop down trees and clear up some stuff in the woods and all that stuff. So it's kind of away from computer stuff for a bit. It's always kind of nice to, just like get away from it all for a short bit, kind of reset your brain. But now I'm back at it, back at work on BombSquad, so and Ballistica stuff and all that. But yeah, I just got back from that yesterday, so I'm unfortunately I don't have any like super awesome stuff that I've been working on lined up to show. So I thought today could just be kind of a random day, see if there's anything people want to discuss, or I can talk a little bit about what I've been doing. Um, let's see. I guess I can't really even show it, but so one thing I've been working on is kind of like sandboxing. So some of you are probably familiar with this, but one of the goals in Ballistica or Bomb Squad 1.8 or 1.9, as we get closer to 2.0, is to be able to let people run mods on cloud servers. And so right now, if you go into the game and if you go up here and go into private, do host a private party, and you hit host here, what this is doing. It's spinning up a game on one of my servers, up in the cloud somewhere. So one of these things, you've all seen this map a million times, but these little purple dots here. When you host a private server, it's basically hosting a game on one of these things and then allowing you to connect to that. So if I hit connect, so I'm now connected to a private server somewhere. In my case, it's probably like right here, which is fun and all, and it makes it more convenient to host games because before to host games, if you're running like the standard server, or if if you come in here and host a public party, then you have to worry, like, basically this. If you do this, it's going to host the game like on your device, like on your computer or on your phone or whatever. And the downside with that is that you have to have like ports opened on your router and things like that. So people need to be able to connect to, whichever port you're running on. If I invalid name, oh yeah, my server. I think this probably won't work because I haven't forwarded the ports. So if I, yeah, see, trying to host the game, but port UDP port 43210 is not open on my router. So anyone on the internet trying to contact my computer here is going to get blocked by my router. Which is how most people's setups are. Most people are behind firewalls or things like that. So basically, what that means is, it's kind of a pain in the butt to to host a game behind your router. So that's why like cloud hosting is so nice. So just being able to just have the game host for you, on one of my servers, where then we don't have to worry about firewalls and port forwarding and all that stuff. But anyway, the point I was making is the major downside with hosting private parties is that you can't, you can select playlists, you can select one of your playlists that you've made, but what you can't do is use mods or things like that. Like if you make your own minigame type or whatnot, you can't host that on a cloud server right now. It only basically all of these servers are just running like the standard vanilla unmodded copies of the game. So, you can't, it doesn't like transmit your mods over to them or anything like that. But I want to make that possible. Like that's going to be a big part of, BombSquad probably 1.9 when we get the squad system in there, is being able to, just write your own mods, your own mini games, your own whatever, and then just be able to host that on the cloud, or be able to like press a button and like share that with your friends, so then anyone can host games all over the place, with mods and everything else. So that should open up a lot of like fun possibilities. But the one thing that I kind of the big missing piece that I need for that is sandboxing. And what sandboxing means is, like, when I'm running a game on one of my servers here, I need to, and it's running a mod. That mod is basically Python code that is not trusted. It's just like it's coming from anybody. Anyone could be hosting that game. And so that Python code could be like trying to mine Bitcoin or something like that. That's always the example I use. So what a sandbox is, it's basically kind of it's just like it's setting up an environment to be able to kind of run modded servers with any Python code in there, and then just kind of run them in a safe place where it's not going to like burn up all the CPU time on that server, or it's not going to, crash the server, or use up all the memory from that server. So it's a matter of like putting these limitations in place where, like, if I'm running BombSquad over here on my cloud server and it starts to use too much memory, or it starts to use too much CPU, it'll limit the CPU, or it'll kill the app if its memory usage goes over a certain thing or something like that. So once that's in place, the all this sandboxing stuff, then we can start to do some really fun stuff. So that's kind of what I've been working on, is trying to get a little like sandbox off the ground at least. So you can see, this is probably super boring here, but if you take a look at, like, I have my little test server here on my dev fleet, I call it. If I go into my test server, I have my little test sandbox. So I can hit go on that, and it'll like launch a little sandbox test, which doesn't actually do too much yet, but it says hello world, goodbye world. So this is my sandbox. It's very exciting. And so, yeah, basically right now it's just like a Python script that doesn't do much except print stuff. But the big thing is I'm trying to get that Python script to run like in a protected sandbox environment. So that's that. It's unfortunately not something I can really like, demo in a fun way, or not something that's ready to use yet. But I'm hoping soon I'll have at least like a little simple test thing where people can, maybe access like the cloud console or something, where like you can run Python code on my server and try to like break it, or try to, see if you can like escape the sandbox. It'll be a fun little challenge for people. But then, that'll just be kind of a step along the way. Once the sandbox is working well, then we can open up like running mods on public servers. So that'll be fun. And the way that'll probably work is with workspaces. So if you're not familiar with workspaces, these have been mentioned in a few, like, I think there's been a few demos and stuff of these, but it's basically where you can come in and write code in your own little kind of private cloud area here. And right now what workspaces are mainly used for is you can make one of these workspaces active, or enable workspace syncing, where like this workspace will then be synced down to the game. So right now I have workspace syncing on for workspace 1. So if I'm signed into my V2 account, I launch the game, there you can see like workspace 1 is activated, and this hello world from that little plugin in workspace 1. So it's kind of just an easy way to like mod your own device. So if I come into here and change this, let's change it to hello from my plugin 2. Hit save there, and then launch the game again. It should say hello from my plugin 2. Hooray! Okay, so that worked. One of the recent updates, I totally broke workspaces. I think one point, I'm trying to refresh like what version we're on now, but yeah, workspaces were totally broken in. Go to the changelog here. Yeah, I think 1.7.10. Like I added something something that broke Workspaces, but it should be fixed. So if you still happen to be running 1.7.10, try to update. It should be 1.7.12 should be available on Google Play and all the test builds and all that. So just make sure you're not using 1.7.10 anymore. But anyway, what I was mentioning, I keep getting off on like tangents within tangents. But the thing with Workspaces is right now you use Workspaces basically to like mod your phone or mod your computer or whatever. But these will, like, there will be more options soon, like where you can use a workspace to host a game or to just like define a new game type that you might be able to like, play through, a private server, or we'll see how that works. But the idea is just a workspace is just a place for you to put a bunch of Python code and then do something with it. So yeah, so I'm really excited to get this sandbox stuff working, even though it's not, it's not necessarily like part of 1.7 or it's not necessarily needed right now, but I'd love to start playing with it a little bit, to let people start, playing with workspaces and hosting cloud games with their own code and stuff. I think that'll open up a lot of fun possibilities. Oh no, can't handle a 60 FPS stream. I could switch this to 30. Is that something? Are other people running into that? Is that like a bandwidth issue? I've just been streaming, like 1080p 60 FPS, but we could switch it to something else. I mean, most of this stuff doesn't actually, like, I'm just like coding here and talking most of the time, so we don't technically need 60 FPS. What do you use to program your game? So this is this is kind of interesting. Like if I were starting writing BombSquad or Ballistica today, I would definitely look into like using Unreal or one of the off-the-shelf engines like Unreal or Unity or there's a few other options. Why am I blanking? I step away and like go cut down trees for a week and I forget like everything. Godot, however you say it. Yeah, the open source engine. So I would definitely take a look at those. But when I started writing BombSquad, this was like, I was in college and this was like 2004 or something. So like most of those, I think Unreal Engine existed, but it was like $30,000 or something. It was basically like a very high end engine. So I just started like writing BombSquad myself as, it was kind of a way to like learn OpenGL and physics and stuff like that too. But yeah, it's basically just Python and C++. When I'm coding, I usually use just Emacs a combination of Emacs. I use Emacs, which is a super old school, crazy editor. I use this for most Python coding, as I am. Oops, that's the wrong folder. I'm supposed to be over here. But yeah, for Python coding, I largely use Emacs, as I said. Find a Python file here. So yes, this is basically what my Python environment looks like. I'll just like throw Emacs windows all over the place and whatnot. But sometimes I also use I use PyCharm occasionally for like high level Python stuff, because PyCharm has a lot of convenient things for like refactoring, like if you want to rename a Python class or whatever and have that kind of go through all your code and rename it everywhere and things like that, or just kind of standard like high level nice like IDE type stuff, or and that's for the Python side. For the C++ side, a lot of times I'll use Xcode just because I work on a Mac usually, and Xcode is a pretty decent like C++ editor. So here's Xcode if anyone's worked on a Mac. It looks pretty much like your standard kind of coding environment. Or sometimes I also have like CLion is a nice one too. It's by JetBrains, the same people that made like PyCharm and all that, a ton of other stuff. So I'll sometimes use this because it does have it's nice and like platform agnostic. You can run CLion on Linux or Windows or whatever too. Environment has changed. What? So you can see, all these. I feel like all these IDEs always look kind of similar. Um, but yeah, that's been kind of interesting with BombSquad, trying to make it, trying to get it buildable on as many platforms as possible. So it's like I wound up having a little bit of experience with all these different systems. So I got the Xcode stuff here. If you're looking at like the Ballistica public repo, that's got basically CMake, I believe, is the main one there. So CMake lists.txt. For Android, there's all Android Studio stuff and Gradle and all that. Windows is of course Visual Studio. A decent amount of that is in the public repo. So yeah, so there's not. This is my internal one, so it's got a little bit of extra stuff that's not in the public repo, which is largely like the public repo is like the clean version of everything. This is like there's some really ugly, janky stuff in here, like under tools. There's just I don't know. Like I keep the public repo a lot cleaner. This is just like certain things that it's kind of like legacy stuff for old platforms in some cases. So anyway, I hope I somewhat answered that question. Is I use a little bit of everything for coding. Let's see, looking through your response questions here. Oh, here, yeah, on Android, I get an arrow pointing in the direction of motion. Is that possible to get on Windows? It should be. I was thinking like we could expose that in some way or kind of make that, an option for any version. It's in the code. If you poke around, it's been a while since I looked at that code, but it's in the C++ layer. There's something. I'm trying to remember where that is. Like the code that handles drawing like the little arrow for like when you're swiping on the touch screen to kind of show you what direction you're going. Yeah, I would look around under, that would probably be under input, I'm guessing, or graphics. It's somewhere. If you ping me offline and I can point you to it after this if you want. But yeah, that could be kind of a neat thing to like generalize and make it so we could turn that on for any like input device or something, so you could just see like where your guy's going more clearly. C++ layer codes are open to. Yes, most of it is. If you look at the repo, like at this point, pretty much all the C++ layer is open sourced. Like the one thing that isn't, like if you're looking at my repo here, there's this internal section, which, I mean, I can show you what's in there. It's not too much stuff. It's just like a handful of Python methods and a few like app functions and some master server stuff. Mostly the internal bits at this point is basically the stuff that like communicates with my master server. And it's like, I kind of don't want people messing with that, because then it'll like, my master server will start breaking and getting requests that it doesn't recognize and things like that. So, but most everything like graphics, physics, all that stuff should be open sourced. Can BombSquad be built as a web app? Not at the moment. Like that would be an interesting project. I know like Unity and some engines like that, they have an option where you can like deploy for web. Like that would be interesting to see like what it would take to do that, but I don't have, I haven't really looked into that too much. That would be interesting though. I'm hearing some noises. Is someone's unmuted? I mean, feel free to unmute if you want to say something, but yeah, just. When is the new update? Are you talking about 1.8, I'm assuming? 1.8 will be the next big update, and that is, I can't estimate when that'll be done yet. Like right now, there's a few things still with 1.7 that are not, I don't consider them done. Like the main thing is getting V2 accounts working for Google Play logins. Because most people playing the game are on Android using Google Play logins, I believe. Because that's kind of what you get by default, so you don't have to like set up an account. And so I need to get those logins like updated so that you can use all the cool new like V2 features. Like when you come to ballistica.net, like all of this stuff is basically, whoops, let's go to the main server here. But like devices, like this section and workspaces, and like when this stuff is working, asset packages, like all of this stuff is built on what's called V2 accounts, which is it's on my like new account server that I just started writing a few years ago. There's like the old account server, which was written like 10 years ago. That's just called like the V1 server. Like currently stuff like device logins and Google Play logins and all that, those are basically like V1 accounts. So they're only talking to the old server. So I need to, over time I plan to make, most accounts talk to this new server. So you'll start to get all these new cool features like workspaces and, like the cloud console and stuff. So anyway, that's kind of my big outstanding thing with 1.7 still, is to get Google Play logins working with the V2 stuff. So that's probably next on my to-do list, or it's very close. Like I'll probably dive into that maybe this week or next week or something like that. I've been doing a lot of like server wrangling, just like getting all the servers like behaving themselves. Like here's this map again, everyone's seen a million times. So here's everyone playing at the moment, or here's all the cities in the world where there's at least one person playing, and then all the little lines show like where they're connected to. Here we got a submarine player out here. Here's a few more submarine players. There's somebody in the ocean over here. I don't know what that's about. But yeah, this stuff is mostly behaving well. If you remember, like a few weeks ago, I was showing like a lot of my servers were having errors and things, and it's mostly cleaned up. If you look at like all these servers, this one just has like a warning. That's what that little orange thing is. But most everything else has like been running for quite a while, and it's nice and error free. So that's one of the things I've been working on, is just getting all that stuff working well. Because then once like Google Play logins are going through this stuff, or once they're using V2 features, like these servers will be doing a lot more. So I just need to make sure that they're nice and bulletproof before that happens. But they seem to be mostly there. I'm pretty happy. In other news, I've shown you guys this stuff before, but AWS local zones. So all of my servers are running on AWS, Amazon's Web Services. I forgot what that stands for, but they just, these green dots are the ones that are going to be coming, new server locations that will be coming in the future. They opened one in, let's see, is Taipei and where was this one? Another one in India. Delhi, yeah. So Taipei and Delhi just opened recently, and then this last week there's one in Warsaw now. So we got one in Poland, and then another one in Germany, I think, maybe. Hamburg. Yeah. So these new ones, like these aren't online yet because they aren't, for some reason they aren't enabling the certain type of like servers that we need. If you come down to features, like these are all the different like server types that they use, and we used like T3 or TX server types. And these new 4 places, they have this stupid asterisk here, which means the T3s are not running yet on these 4 servers. So Warsaw, Taipei, Hamburg, and Delhi. But it says upcoming. So as soon as these T3s turn on, then we'll have more server locations. And so that's cool, because it means, as they open up more and more of these dots, that means like when you run cloud games, they'll be closer and closer to you. So we can get, definitely like in South America, there's a ton of people playing in South America, but there's only like one server down here right now. You can see like everyone in South America is connecting to this one server. So it'll be nice when we get more to, like get people spread out a bit more. So that's, random news. Yes, your pings will hopefully improve. I mean, client prediction, of course, will still be coming at some point, which should hopefully reduce the need for a low ping. But still, like a low ping is always good. Like even in games where client prediction works well, it's still, everything will just be crisper, and you'll see what other people are doing more clearly and stuff. Did you create the whole game by yourself? Yes, pretty much. I had a roommate back when I started, like when I was in college. He helped me with some sounds and a little bit of the graphics at the very beginning, but that was a long time ago. It's pretty much just been me since then. And of course, all you like modders and stuff, and everyone like adding cool stuff, and starting to like contribute to the GitHub. So that's awesome. But yes, this has been like a very like long-term project for me. It's, as I said, I started it basically in college, and now I'm getting all old and whatnot. So it's been like years, but it's been interesting. Like some some indie game developers, there's some out there that, they put out like 2 or 3 indie games every year, and they do well with that. Like everyone has different strategies and stuff, but for me, I just like kind of having this one little world and kind of building on top of it more and more and improving it. And my thought is like I want to be able to experiment with making more mini games and things like that. And like for me, that's just as much fun as making an entirely new game. And so I figure like I'm gonna put my time into just kind of working on this single code base, and there's a lot of stuff with making games that you'd have to kind of like redo the same effort over and over again, just like kind of like boring stuff, like bringing up, like setting up app store pages and wiring up UIs and things like that, which it's kind of funny because I spend most of my time on kind of boring technical stuff right now, but the goal is to not have to be able to do that in the future, to just be able to kind of make fun new mini games. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of why like I enjoy kind of working on one game, even though it's been like the same thing I've been working on for for many years now. I should say one engine. It's not the same engine could be used for different things. Like this is something we've talked about before. Is like it'd be fun to make like an AR version of BombSquad, or a VR specific one where it's kind of like slightly different mechanics but recycling some of the same stuff. So I'm trying to keep that in mind in terms of like stuff that we could do down the road, is kind of recycle some of the same stuff to make a little like tabletop version of the game, or who knows. How did you get the idea of adding King of the Hill? So it was kind of like when I started playing games a lot, like when LAN parties were a big thing, like when I was in high school or college. Like one of my favorite games then was, I mean, a lot of first-person shooters had King of the Hill type game. I think they had King of the Hill, but like one of the games that I loved was Myth 2. I don't know if has anyone heard of Myth 2. It's like a super old game now, but it was like a real-time strategy game, but it was like a really early 3D RTS game. And it had a ton of different play modes. It was actually made by Bungie. This was before they made Halo. So Myth 2 had it had like King of the Hill or Capture the Flag. Or I guess it didn't have Capture the Flag, but King of the Hill was one of the game modes, and it was super fun. So I was like, I wanna add King of the Hill. New character. So yeah, this is. I feel like I need to get this information more easily available, but the plan right now, 1.8, the next big update, one of the major feature of 1.8 is going to be like downloadable assets, which means that all of us can add new maps and characters and things like that, and just like upload them to the cloud, and then anyone connecting to a server that is using those will download them. So it'll be more like a web server. It's like when you connect to a website, your browser downloads the JPEGs and the bits of the website that it needs. It'll make the game more like that. So like right now, it's a really big pain in the butt if you're making an awesome mod where you're making your own models and your own sounds and whatnot. Like you need to distribute those to everyone, and then need to put them in the right places and all that. And on some platforms it's harder than others, and like on Android, it's definitely trickier now with Android. Like newer versions of Android make it harder to kind of like access files and whatnot for security reasons. But anyway, the whole point with 1.8 is going to be to make that whole process kind of like easy and automatic, where you can add characters and whatnot, and then just people can use them very, very easily. So so as a side note, I'm planning to add more characters and things as soon as 1.8 is done, because then that will be just like technically a lot easier to add new stuff to the game without like requiring everyone to update and be on the same version with the same assets and things like that. So basically, yeah. Question is, so basically anyone can use our character assets. That will be. I will have to. I've mentioned this before too. Like there'll be like a moderation aspect. Like I I don't want to get like sued into oblivion by like companies because like somebody made a copyrighted character and like is distributing that or something. So I'll probably, for like making custom characters and stuff, there might have to be limitations. Like you can maybe share with your friends with a code or something like that, and everyone else would probably see like spaz. But then like if we flag characters as like, okay, this is not copyrighted, or this is okay to share, or we can maybe, people can put some characters or submit them to me and put them on the store, or we'll figure out how that works. But there'll be like the technical capability will be there to be able to share characters, is in terms of like how exactly you share them or which ones are available, to automatically download. That's something we'll have to decide. And yeah, there'll probably be like an official list of characters. Um, like I said, maybe I do want to make some sort of like store type thing. This getting off on another tangent is I want to. I'd like to remove some stuff in the game. Like right now, you can pay for tickets and use tickets to, like continue in certain like single player co-op games. Like I want to rip all that out. I want, I don't like that. Feels too like pay to win. I don't like that. I'd prefer to make all them. I mean, I do need to make money so I can like pay rent and keep working on the game. But I'd prefer to make it all through just like cosmetic stuff. Like character unlocks and skins and things like that. So I do plan to kind of lean more heavily on that. Um, and maybe there's an option like if people make an awesome character that they want to share, and I can put it on the store, and maybe there's some like people can earn something for that. If we get to that point, like maybe people could make money for making awesome characters or something, or who knows, or at least to start with at least in-game currency. But if I could get there's probably logistics there to figure out, but it'd be great. Some games do that, right? With what am I thinking of? Like Roblox, like that's all about like people building stuff and making a bit of money for it or something too. So who knows? We could wind up in a place like that where people could actually make money for making characters or something. But that's a ways down the road. Right now, I'm just worrying about getting the technical pieces in place. But oh yeah, celebrities as characters. Yeah, in before I released the game, back in the day, it was really just for like me and my friends to play for fun. And so then I had a bunch of celebrities and things in there because it wasn't like I was not going to get in trouble for that. It was just for me and my friends. Um, but it would be interesting, like if it got to the point where it was easy enough to add characters. We could I don't know if it'd be able to approach companies about like, hey, could we pay you something to license your character for the game or something like that. That could be cool to have if it got to the point where we could have some like recognizable stuff in there. Oh no. Yeah, just read roadmap. I don't want to. I probably it probably bores people to hear like the same answers to the same few questions over and over again. But I don't want to. I don't want to rip on people for asking questions. So, but if anyone has ideas about like places where we can put links to the roadmap, or like FAQs and stuff like that, just to, it'd be great to help people kind of learn stuff without. Again, I don't want to like make people feel like they shouldn't ask questions. Cappuccino. Do I like cappuccino? Yeah, I like cappuccino. I'm usually like a boring normal coffee person. Like this is just regular coffee with a bit of milk in it. Actually, it's instant coffee. I'm not like a coffee connoisseur. It's just like whatever's quick and cheap. Possible to join JRMP servers? Yes. No, it should be. Like, there's certain things that we should be able to do most of that type stuff. Just, yeah, like you connect to that server, it'll download whatever assets that server is using. And that server, like right now, servers can run their own, Python scripts to kind of like modify the physics and the rules and like low level stuff like that. So I'm hoping something like JRMP will be, totally possible to do like completely server side, to where you can basically connect to a server running JRMP and get like pretty much the full experience. There's certain things that you can do with mods, like you can modify like the local UI of the game and things like that, and stuff like that. Connecting to a server, won't be able to like modify your main menu and stuff. So it's like it might be a little bit different depending on what the mod is doing. There might be a few limitations on purely server side stuff, but But my goal is like, people that want to make something like JRMP, they should be able to do that without having to distribute a ton of files and have detailed instructions on how to install it. Bomb Dash mod pack. I mean, I've looked. Yeah, I've looked at it. I haven't like gone super detailed into like most mod packs, admittedly. Is there a reason you're asking? Teaching Spaz to walk. I was seeing a lot of there's a YouTube video called Teaching Spaz to Walk. It's from like 2010 or something like that. It was like when I was first redoing the characters. Because in the old version of the game, basically the characters were a lot simpler. They were, it was just like, in the physics, it was just like two spheres, basically. So it looked like little snowmen. And like the arm and leg animation was just, it wasn't like physics-based. It was just animated. So it was kind of like cartoony and simpler in a way, but you didn't get the cool stuff. Like you didn't get like ragdoll deaths and things like that. So at some point before when I was like cleaning the game up and like removing the celebrities and making it ready to release around like 2010 or 2011, I forgot exactly when that was. One thing I did was like redo the character physics so that all the characters are like full ragdolls. Like each arm is made up of like a few rigid bodies and things like that, which gives us the cool like physicsy floppy characters and like ragdoll deaths and stuff like that. But it took a little work to kind of like animate those ragdolls and like get the physics-based stuff to look like it was animating. So that's what that video was. It's like teaching Spaz to walk. It was just like getting those ragdoll bodies to like move around and physics-based animation. But apparently like people have been commenting on that video like this last week, so I don't know, people must have rediscovered it or something. Do you know how to make bomb jump? I'm actually like I'm familiar with bomb jumps, but I haven't actually like tried to get good at them myself or do them myself. It is really interesting to see like all this stuff people discover in the game, just like techniques for like slingshotting flags or like on football, like trying to set like new speed records for football, the way people, like throw the flag and run and throw the flag and run. Stuff where it's like it was completely like not designed. It was just like the physics kind of people like use the physics to like discover cool new techniques and stuff. And I think that's neat. Like I like that about physics-based stuff is that you provide a set of rules and then people come up with like crazy ways to kind of exploit those rules or use those rules. Oh, is that the case? Bomb jump? Like, is there a? What do you need to be good at bomb jumps? Like a gamepad or touchscreen? Like, what are who is the best bomb jumpers? Actually, in the original version of the game, I should I should recompile the original version, even though it had all the celebrities in it and stuff. It would still be one of these days. I need to do that just to show everyone what it looked like at first. Because way back in the day, like there were some differences. Like right now, when you press the bomb button, you pick up a bomb. But it used to be when it was more like Bomberman, where you press the bomb button and it would just like poop out a bomb like under you. And so in that case, it was actually easier to bomb jump because you could just like poop out a bomb and then just jump at the right time and it would like launch you. Um, so in the old version of the game with the simpler physics, it's like everyone was just like like launching themselves with bombs constantly, which was fun, but it was kind of chaotic too. Yeah, it would be interesting to get people's opinions on. I want to act as kind of a moderator or something going forward. I know I haven't like made too many like gameplay changes recently. It's mostly technical stuff, but it would be interesting to see like what people feel about like bomb jumps or like is there something that feels like too exploity? I know a lot of people have opinions on like punch strength and things like that, like what we could kind of tweak to make things more evenly competitive and stuff in the future. Yeah, we topic of today's office hour. There's not too specific of a topic. I mean, we're just doing Q&A right now. We could do like a live coding thing in a bit or if anyone has any ideas. Speaking of that, if there's something you'd like to see in terms of like a live coding or like, hey, how do I do this? Please holler. As I said, I just got back from like my week away yesterday, and so I haven't. I'm a little fresh to all this myself, like just getting back into the swing of working. Where is my sock? All right, so it sounds like there's generally positive feelings on bomb jumps, so that's good to see. Lego Cup P2. Oh, yeah. My coffee cup. Yeah, I'm going with the Zelda one today. If anyone hasn't seen this, I love this cup. But I do have my Lego cup is in the kitchen. Maybe I'll swap out the Lego cup next week. Sure, anyone, feel free to DM me anytime. I can't promise I will always respond promptly. I know, like this last week, I've been just letting DMs build up, so I apologize for that. But I'll get to it eventually. Hopefully. Oh no. If you ever like message me and I don't respond, just like ping me again, like to a reasonable extent. I do, because sometimes if I come back and I haven't read stuff for a while, there'll be like a bajillion unread messages, and I won't see them all or something. But if you ping me later, I'll get to it. We could play in a bit if no one has ideas for live coding stuff they want to see. I'm down to play a game or two. Question for everyone: has anyone? I know, like as I mentioned, when I put out 1.7.10, there were a bunch of like broke workspaces and things like that, and there were some kind of weird flaky issues with Cloud Console. I think I got most of that cleared up for 1.7.12. So has anyone been playing with that stuff, or has anyone run into any like problems with Cloud Console or workspaces or anything? Are things hopefully behaving for people? Any of you who are working with V2 accounts? Oh yes, one. Oh yeah. I'm mirroring so I'm on my laptop. I got a MacBook Pro which has a 120 hertz display, so I'm actually mirroring that right now. So actually the game is running at 120 hertz, which is cool. I know that's on the to-do list. I need to get that working on Windows and Linux to support arbitrary screen refresh rates and whatnot. A pause button for replays. Is there not a pause button? Or do I have any replays? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I guess you could drop the playback speed all the way down, but yeah, that's... It would be good, like... What I wanted to do for replays, like what would be ideal is like having the standard like playback thing here, like a pause play button. I guess maybe the plus and minus button, like the speed buttons could be somewhere. And then like a fast forward or rewind button or something like that. If anyone feels ambitious and wants to like look into that, I think most of that code should be accessible. Like if you wanted to make a cool like replay play bar. But yeah, Or we could, I mean, the main menu coming up, we could make that pause the replay. Like, technically. So yeah, something to think about. And then, oh yeah, a rewind button. Rewind would be a little bit trickier. I mean, because basically what a replay is, if anyone doesn't know, the replay is essentially, it's using the same code basically as a network game. It's just instead of, data coming in over the network from the server, it's coming from a file on the disk. So it's essentially just playing like a network game that has been like stored to a file on your hard drive. So it would be a little bit tricky for like a rewind button. We would just have to, essentially like rewind to some point in the file and kind of like restart the game or something. There'd be a little bit of, like technical setup involved, but it should be doable. Taunt animations, that would be fun. Yeah, I'd love to do stuff like taunt animations. Again, I want to get the game to a point where basically, that's where I make the money off of it, is just like selling cool like taunt animations or skins or things like that, and not like restricting features as much. So yeah, anything like taunt animations or anything like that, totally down for. Or if you think of anything else that would be fun to kind of be able to customize, or if you think of like Fortnite games like that, where it's like you can customize like your glider, or like how your different weapons look or something like that. Things that. So any ideas you have on like what would be cool to kind of be able to like differentiate your account, or like if you're really good, be able to like get a really good version of. Yeah, dances. It'd be interesting like with dances, because everything is physics based, so I'd have to like code the dances with like ragdoll physics. So it would look like really bad dancing probably. But that could be fun. Or yeah, like we could make that moddable, like where you could just like define your own dances. You just like try to move your arm to here at this point and be like, whoa. Or I had like interesting ideas like a score screen, stuff we could do once we get squads in there, where it's more like competitive team on team online cloud based stuff, like where it's like it could like show your characters standing there like during the before or after the match, and like maybe you could like control part of their body with your gamepad or something, like move their arm around, or do almost like your own little improv dance or something. Spaz twerking. Oh no. But yeah, that would be fun. I'd love to open that up. Let people make their own like goofy physicsy animations. Is this live stream going to be on YouTube? Yeah, I'll put this. What I've been doing is putting like kind of the most meaty parts of these live streams on YouTube. So I'll probably just throw the whole thing on this week, because there's not really a meaty part. It's mostly just Q&A. But yeah, if any of you, just in general, if any of you are, depending on where you are in the world, if you're, don't feel like you have to hang around, if you want to watch this later or anything like that, or catch the highlights. I was wanting to, we'll have to look, I don't know if you were all here for that. I was looking into like the stages feature here on Discord, just to see if that would make more sense for like these presentations. But it didn't seem to have like, it's nice to have the chat here, and I wasn't seeing like a screen sharing functionality or whatever. I don't know if it's just audio only, or if I'm just dumb and old and missed it. Oh, that'd be cool. Stars overhead effect when you, got over 70% damage. Yeah, it'd be like stuff like that is fun, when there's like some little special effect that you see when you get like a really good punch, just to like show off that you got that really good punch. Can't from Python. Oh, interesting. Well, we could, if there's something that's missing, we can add a function for it. I mean, that's, a specific functionality, we can add Python functions for it, and then it is available from the scripting layer. So if there's something we for like replays, we'd probably need a thing like that, like a rewind replay button or something that would have to talk to the C++ layer. it would be great to, like come up with a little API or like a class that would control a replay, so it's just like we could implement that implement that class like in the C++ layer, make it do, a handful of things like being able to set replay speed, set replay time, rewind the replay, whatever. And then, from there, then you could write kind of the GUI and the Python layer to control that. So that would be neat. It makes me think about other like what would be fun to add to replays also. Like it could be cool to have like highlight points or something, or being able to like divide replays up, or like if you're at some point if we did something like a cloud game, playing against another team, I could like record like highlight points, like the most damaging punch or something like that, and then maybe you could like show those highlights after the match, or stuff like that, like before you're waiting for the next match, or just in the post game or something. So if anyone has ideas of like what kind of stuff we could add to replays or where we could like evolve that, like I'm all ears. Oh yeah, timeline, like that's another thing, going back to, having controls at the bottom. Obviously the timeline would be great for that, just being able to click anywhere on the timeline. So again, like I think for something like this, we basically want to just kind of pimp out the replay functionality in the C++ layer, where it's like we give it, a handful of functions that we could use, just like set the time for the replay, or set the speed for the replay, or start the replay over, or set looping on or off, things like that. And then, we could write UIs that talk to all that. Which, that's another thing we need too, is like some sort of slider UI function. Like I don't have, it's been somewhere in my mental to-do list for about 10 years now, is, for places like sound and audio volume, it'd be great to have a slider here instead of just this plus or minus button, So if we wanted to write like a slider widget, then we could, recycle that for like replays, having a slider along the bottom that represents like the replay position or something. Then it would maybe fade out if you mouse away from it. Or don't tap for a while. You always have to think of, like, because now we support like touch-based stuff as well as like mouse-based stuff. It's like you have to think of, you can't do too much with like mouse over, because that's not always available in touch land. Make a slider widget. Oh man, that might be. I'm trying to think like how long. I feel like making a good slider widget is probably like maybe a day or two of work, getting everything working well. So that might be a really long, boring live stream. But if anyone feels like making widgets, I mean, I do want to revisit the widget system and make it, it's very old and kind of crusty and hard-coded and stuff. But if anyone wants to experiment with it, it's, where is that? It's under UI widget. You can come down here and, you can see what all these things are. Let me, what would be an interesting one? Like checkbox widget. Let's check this out. So like this is all C++ for like the checkbox widget. See, it's not a ton of code, but yeah, like here's what's happened, setting the value of the checkbox, activate, that's basically when you click it or hit return with it selected. There's various like UI system messages that come through. So yeah, like mouse move, mouse down, mouse up. This just handles all that stuff. Yeah, so it looks largely like any UI system. Oh, here's drawing it. So this is the graphics code basically. Yeah, draw. So whenever the game draws a frame, it goes through and like all the widgets it gets this draw method called for all the widgets. And then here's kind of how the graphics system works at a low level. There's these what's called just components. So you just define a component and then just set various values on them. I might redo this in a little bit, because this is kind of in the style of like old school OpenGL, where you're basically issuing commands over and over again, just like set this, set this, set this, set texture, push transform, translate, scale, draw, pop, submit. So it feels like modern graphics APIs. It's more just like you're creating a, not to get too nerdy, but like in most cases you're creating like a struct or something and filling out values in that struct, and then like submitting that struct. So at some point I might evolve the graphics API a little bit, because that's another thing on my infinite to-do list of stuff to do is right now there's only one renderer in the game. It's OpenGL. If you want to ever play with that, it's under where is it? Under graphics, GL, and then yeah, renderer GL. So this is a huge, terribly huge, ugly file that's just like using OpenGL to render all those like components that we just defined. So yeah, it would be great to do like a Metal version or like a Vulkan version or a DirectX version, things like that. I know some people have mentioned like on Windows, there's a few common errors when some people launch the game, they get like an immediate crash because like OpenGL is missing a function or something like that. I'm curious if the game is doing something wrong, or if that's just some case where people don't have like good OpenGL drivers, or there's certain things I'm not sure of, but I know like on Windows, like DirectX is kind of like the native 3D graphics API, so it could be cool to have a DirectX renderer just to be able to work more cleanly on Windows or things like that. So that's another thing on like the infinite to-do list is to clean the graphics layer up and make some other renderers. Question here. Assuming you're in a version of Ballistica that allows downloading server assets, would it still work if you connected to a 1 server with new assets? Oh, you're saying that if the server had new assets? I mean, it might. We'll have to see. Like, I imagine things will still work to a degree. Like right now, to do mods with assets, you have to basically install the assets locally, or they have to be installed on the server and on any client. So I would hope that would still work. I mean, you should still be able to. I plan to preserve, being able to connect to 1.4 servers. Going back to 1.4, there were like a million versions of 1.4. So right now, you should still be able to connect to at least later 1.4 servers, and I hope to keep that available. Even in 1.8, there will definitely be there will be some restrictions. Like if you're hosting a 1.8 game, you'll probably have to decide like basically which, it's called scene protocol. You'll have to decide like which scene protocol you're hosting. You can either host the old one, in which case like 1.4 players will be able to connect to you, or you'll be able to host the new one, which will require like 1.8 or newer, but then that will support like the downloadable assets and stuff. So weird cases, like if you're a 1.8 client connecting to a 1.4 server, that should still work, I think, with the old protocol. It'll just like, that server won't be able to host like downloadable stuff, obviously, because it's running 1.4, which has no idea how to like send downloadable stuff. But my hope is that like if 1.4 has some mod installed with assets and you have those same assets and you connect to that server, I hope it'll still work. I can't promise for sure, but I'm hopeful. I don't want to like break everyone's mods that require local assets. I don't want to like break that stuff. So we'll have to see how everything kind of interacts. My guess is, if you're running that older scene protocol, like getting off on a tangent, like another big, if you look at the roadmap, like the first thing in 1.8 is getting scene protocols working. And scene protocol basically means it's almost like a different version of the game. It'll be like a different set of nodes or a different kind of behavior. So the game will be able to run like an old scene protocol, which is like the game as we know it right now, which is like the spaz node and the prop node and the terrain node and all that stuff. And so like if the server is using those set of nodes and your client is using those set of nodes, like they can communicate and you can play. And that's a scene protocol basically. And so the big thing will be in 1.8, we'll be able to define new protocols, which might have completely different sets of nodes or completely different physics or whatever. And so that way we'll finally be able to kind of evolve the game forward, like change the physics or like clean up nodes and make a better set of kind of building blocks for ourselves moving forward, but without like breaking all the existing stuff. So that's kind of, I'm very excited about that. It means we'll be able to, still interact with old servers, but for new servers, they'll be able to start using like better sets of building blocks, So it'll be, yeah, we'll have to see how that evolves, but I'm very happy that we'll have that in place. Because that's been like kind of I feel like it's kind of held the game back, is like compatibility concerns. Like anytime I'd want to like add even like an attribute to like a spaz node or something, it's like you have to really think about like, okay, what's going to happen to an old client that is not aware of that attribute. You have to be very careful to like never send the value for that attribute to any old client that's connected, stuff like that, because they'll be like, what is this attribute? I have no idea. Crash. Boom. So anyway, hope that made somewhat sense. But the idea is that yeah, we'll start having these different scene protocols going forward, so we can start diversifying things more. Any other demo games? Oh, sorry, I shouldn't be selecting all this. Any other demo games by me? You mean like completely different games, like not BombSquad? If that's what you're asking, there's not really. I was working with some friends of mine for a few years. So they had kind of a game startup, which was super informative. So I used to work at Pixar a long time ago. I worked at Pixar for almost 10 years doing movies and animation and visual effects there. And then after that, I left to kind of work on BombSquad full time. But then I took a few years and worked with my friends with their studio, and so it was called Limbic, and they made Zombie Gunship. If anyone's ever heard of that, like Zombie Gunship. Zombie Gunship Survival is like the newest. That's the one I worked on with them for a few years. So I basically did kind of the graphics for that game. And then we did like a fun AR version. So this one I did more, most of the graphics on this too. So this was kind of neat. So this was kind of a augmented reality game.
With someone outside your company and wait for back and forth email or a call to be rescheduled for the third time. Or you could use Slack and work faster with.
So this was kind of a neat game where it was just like AR. Oh yeah, that was my iPad a second ago. So here's my apartment in San Francisco. So you just kind of like place these little. Oh, there's my desk that I'm sitting at right now. But this was just like placing a little base, and then like zombies try to invade your base, and you have to like fight them off from like an attack helicopter. It was kind of cool. So this is on iPhone and iPad only. I'm not actually sure if it's still on the store. It might not be. It might be. But yeah, I mainly worked on the graphics for this stuff. So I'll just show you just a little bit more of it. See, just kind of shooting zombies. I'll wait till I shoot some missiles. Missiles are fun. So, anyway, yeah, that was. It was a lot of fun to work on. But yeah, like I'm kind of bummed because I did all the explosions and stuff for BombSquad like 10 years ago, and then I did a lot more work with explosions and stuff on that game. And that was, years later. So like I'd love to go back and like make the explosions in BombSquad cooler or better looking or whatever. And yet another thing on the infinite to-do list. Adding one chip. When a player dealing damage more than 100% on the head, and the head flies off like a football. Well, that happens somewhat right now, right? Like if you deal a ton of damage, like players break apart into pieces. Like, does that ever happen? Can you actually like punch someone's head off? Like that would be actually kind of cool. Yeah, I mean it's a little bit random right now, but yeah, it could be interesting making that part more specific. If you look, there's rules in there. If you look at like the code for like when things break apart. I think that's in Ballistica scene. node spaz. Should be like spaz.cc or spaznode.cc. There's all this like shatter stuff. So there's like a shattered attribute. You can see if you scroll through here, you'll find a bunch of kind of like the rules in terms of like when things shatter and what causes them to shatter and how they shatter. Oh yeah, this is like here's like the update that it does. So like if your spaz is currently shattered, it keeps track of all these different things. Like, is this joint broken? Is this joint broken? Is neck joint broken? So yeah, we could technically make like some rule where it's like, if you get punched really hard in the head, then we would mostly just break just the neck joint or something like that. And his head would fly off. So yeah, that could be fun. Yeah, so I think this is probably like the update function, I think. Spaz is a pretty, it's a pretty like horrifically long file. That would be another thing. It'd be good to clean this up a little bit. There's a whole lot of code in here. If I can find the top of it. Oh yeah, step. So this is basically just like doing a simulation step for spaz. These are all the different like rigid bodies for him. Yeah, it goes through and there's a lot that goes on, like for each individual spaz, like for every step of the simulation. And the simulation steps 120 times per second. And so yeah, whoops. What have I done? So for each spaz, 120 times, it does all of this. Which is crazy that like, you know, a low-end phone can can handle all this. Reopen this, but that's also a reason why the game, it's like splits out the C++ layer. Like anything that needs to run fast should be in the C++ layer, because if like Python is a wonderful language, it's very expressive and like flexible and all that, but it is not fast. So you wouldn't want to be doing all of this logic, like updating rigid body positions and things like that. You would not want to do that in Python, because your game would be very, very slow. So it's kind of an interesting thing to decide like what parts to do in Python, because it's like flexible and scriptable and all that, versus what to do in C++, which is, you know, not that C++ is like terribly hard compared to Python, but you know, it's definitely a little harder to work with, and you know, just a little, obviously people can't like mod that very easily, you know, they'd have to recompile the game. But the stuff that you need to run fast like should happen in C++. So it's, like I said, it's a fun like design aspect, trying to decide like what stuff should be C++ and what stuff should be Python. Oh yeah, there is. This is something else I need to get fixed. When I was actually developing the game, I had I don't think it's in there anymore, but I had just like a previs mode where basically you'd hit F8 or something like that, and it would just show all the rigid bodies. I need to get that back in there, because then you can like see what spaz actually is. You know, there is still like a roller ball. So like where his feet are, there's like one big sphere that like rolls around to propel him. Which I'm not sure if I would design it the same way anymore. I would maybe do that slightly differently, because sometimes you get like some slightly weird physics from the ball rolling. It like causes spaz to do some kind of wacky stuff, or like twist in weird ways. So I would maybe do that, and I don't know, I'd maybe experiment a bit. But yeah, there are a few like large spheres that make up spaz. Obviously, you can't see them in the game; they're invisible. But you know that's how he moves around, is like basically this sphere rolling. BombSquad speedrunning. I haven't actually looked into that. I've seen some people do, as I mentioned earlier, like, you know, setting speed records on like football and stuff like that, which is like crazy, insane to me, like how fast people can, you know, like throw the flag and run and throw the flag and run and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to see other places where, yeah, speed running is, or like other tricks people come up with. And one, it's funny to hear like one kind of myth people come up with is that like the characters have different stats, and they really don't. Like technically, some of them have slightly different rigid bodies. Like their arms will be slightly apart, or like Zoe has a few rigid bodies making up her hair and stuff like that. So there's like slight physics differences between the characters there, but I don't think that shouldn't actually add up to any like meaningful like in-game play differences. At least I don't think, unless there's slight differences that actually make a difference. But I don't. They, there's definitely nothing explicit there. There's nothing. There's no rules that's like Frosty has extra speed or anything like that. There's nothing in there like that. So it's funny when some people think, or like Kronk has stronger punches or something. It's like none of that is actually in there. Baby Pascal. Oh, that'd be fun. I was thinking, getting off on another tangent, like it would be, one thing I want to do at some point in 1.8 or 1.9 is kind of generalize things to where we can have, make it possible to attach player controls easily to things that are not spaz. Like right now there's some code that like assumes that all players will have a spaz. But it would be fun to kind of generalize that so we could make new node types, because we'll have that new like scene stuff, like scene protocol 2 and stuff, where we could come up with like a a mini spaz, or some different thing, like some smaller or bigger character, and have some players control that, so we could start to like you mentioned, like a baby spaz. It'd be cool to have someone with a little baby character running around. Maybe it would be a specific game type where it's like one player is like a little baby, or a baby Pascal. I mean, one player plays like the baby Pascal, and the other players are like normal spazzes, and like you have to like run away from them or something. Or like one player could be like this giant character or something, or that's just, it'd be fun to experiment with different type characters, or even things like one player could be like a giant sphere or something, like trying to run over the other spaz players or something. So that's why I kind of want to generalize some of the Python code to where make it easy to kind of spawn different kind of actor types, and just attach those to controls and things. Or yeah, baby spaz, baby like baby anything would be funny. And then, did you have games besides BombSquad? Well, there was the one I just showed, the zombie gunship stuff that I worked with my friends. Before BombSquad, I mean, I started working on BombSquad, as I said, back in like college, so like a long time ago for me. Before that, I was actually working on writing kind of a game engine, but I never really finished it, and I feel like for me it was like learning from mistakes, because I was like learning to code at the time, and so I decided to do this big project of just like, oh, I'm gonna write a game engine, and it never, because I kept learning to code, I'd like learn new things, and then I'd completely, like the code I had already written, it was like, oh, this is so ugly, and so and I wind up like rewriting stuff, and then like developing a little bit more, and then rewriting part of it, but I never actually like wrote the gameplay. I was just like writing an engine, and I found that was a bad way to do it, because I feel like to write an engine, I feel like gameplay has to come first. Like make a game, make some, like throw together a little game, and then evolve an engine around that or something. Like that's basically what I did with BombSquad. It started as literally as like a weekend project. Like I was like, I'm gonna make something that's like Bomberman for like me and my roommates to play with, and so I just like threw something together really fast, really ugly, and then it wound up being fun, and we wound up playing it a bit, and so then I just kind of started evolving that, and like cleaning up the engine and adding to it and whatnot, and that kept it going, and here I am many years later still working on the same thing. But I found out that worked a lot better than like trying to do something, like aiming too big to start with, like aiming to write a whole engine without like a game behind it. Like that was a bad idea. So that's what I was doing before BombSquad, is like these bad ideas of like trying to write an engine that never got off the ground. So that's my advice to anyone who's learning to do games and stuff, is like just make a little project and like iterate on it. Make something you can play and something you can be excited about, and then go from there. Yeah, I worked for Pixar. Yeah, right out of college actually. So I started writing BombSquad, and then I got hired at Pixar a few months later. BombSquad was kind of like it was one of my things I was doing just to kind of, you know, experiment and pass time while I was applying for jobs. And then so I wound up doing visual effects at Pixar. So it was a lot of like physics simulation and things like that, which was a ton of fun. I was on the visual effects team there for almost 10 years, like not a little over 9 years, I think. Um, and yeah, it was a ton of fun. If you've seen like the movie Up, I did a lot of like the balloon simulations and things like that. Or Toy Story 3, there's like a bridge that blows up in the beginning. I did that. Or there's a lot of like trash at the end, like they're going through this like garbage dump, and there's all this like simulated trash. That was my simulator, which on a trivia level, it actually like some of the code that I wrote for that simulator at Pixar, like it came from the. I took like an early version of BombSquad and like split off some of that code and took that into Pixar, and that became like the start of the simulator we used there. So there's a common bit of ancestry between BombSquad and Toy Story 3 and Up and all that stuff. Anything we can do as a fan base help with future updates or releases? I would say like just the modding and stuff that people have been doing is awesome, and I'm hoping to, as hopefully you've been gathering here, I'm hoping to just make it easier for people to share mods and make cool stuff like that, and have that have other people use that stuff to where the game is more. I still want to make gameplay and stuff myself. There's still like ideas and stuff I want to do there, but it's also for me it's very exciting like enabling people to explore their ideas too. Um, and everything I'm doing right now, I'm trying to approach it from that perspective. Like all this stuff I've been showing with like the Ballistica web portal, like I'm writing tools for myself to use here, but I'm trying to write them to where they're not only for myself, but they're for other people. Like I'm hoping to use Workspaces myself, or the devices section. Like I have actually been using this to connect to live running copies of the game, and just like be able to like run code within the game. You've probably all seen this, but what this is, the devices section, is if you're signed into a V2 account, you can bring up the console here, and this just gives you like a live Python console for the game. So if you have like BombSquad running on your phone, you do like ba.screen message, hello from the game, exec that, and then just ran some Python code in the game. And this also helps if you're modding like on a phone or something where you don't have access to like the Android logs. If you don't have like the Android SDK installed, like this gives you an easy way to kind of see errors and things like that in your mod scripts. They'll all show up here. Anyway, tangent again. But the point I was making is I'm trying to build these tools that I can use, but that also other people can use. So for 1.8, when all of the existing assets go into asset packages, I plan to be using like this UI to do that, which is not not quite available yet. But that's my hope, is like I want to do everything in 1.8. I want to redo everything as asset packages, like using this UI, and it'll be the same UI that other people can use. So that's something that's exciting to me, is like building these tools that other people can use to like add to the game, or come up with their own little games. So long story short, that's my answer there, is as a fan base, just keep making cool stuff with game, or telling me like what you'd like to see with the engine, or people have been doing a great job too of like submitting bug fixes and things on GitHub. So that all is awesome. I'm hoping to open up more possibilities too, if down the road, and I don't know if we'll get to this point or if it would happen, but just being able to like customize the graphics engine or things like that. Like if someone, I'd like to, as I was saying, I'd like to make a different renderer instead of just the OpenGL one. It'd be great to have a DirectX one, or a Metal or a Vulkan or something like that. But I'd also like to clean the graphics engine up to where it's basically like a simple framework of like, hey, here's the stuff that is in the game, like just draw it. Like kind of leaving maybe maybe leaving a little bit more up to the graphics engine to decide like how to draw it. So then people could do things like, you know, a ray traced graphics engine, or like an offline rendered graphics engine with like, you know, Pixar quality visuals or something like that. If you wanted to like take a replay and like render that out as a movie or something, who knows? So I don't know if it get to the point where modders would be able to do stuff like that, but that would be awesome. A lot of this stuff is like I don't have super solid ideas for where to go with it. It's just like it's fun to play with computers, you know. So it kind of comes down to that. Android open source when? So this is, yeah, this question's come up a few times, and it's kind of like that's not a technical challenge as much as it is like is that a good idea? Like I don't want to, you know, on one hand I'd love for people to be able to kind of make their own customized versions on Android as easily as they can for like Linux and stuff like that, or Linux or Windows, or the, you know, the current open sourced platforms. But on the downside is, you know, I also don't want to make it easy for people to like distribute malware and stuff like that, because there are, you know, tons of modified versions of the game out there, and I think I'm sure some of them have malware type stuff in there, or, you know, like spyware or whatever else. So it's like a part of me thinks like limiting it to just being able to like, you know, mess with the game on desktop, and if you want to submit that, you know, if you want to make changes and submit that to GitHub, they will show up in the next Android builds. But also, it could be fun to like open source the Android version fully for, you know, people being able to improve, you know, if there's weird Android bugs and stuff like that. Like I'd love if people could help fix those. So yeah, I'm a little bit torn on whether to do that or not, or whether that's a good idea or not. Am I playing new computer games sometimes? Admittedly, I have not lately. I feel like a year or two ago I was playing more mobile games, and especially, or even further back than that, when I was starting to port BombSquad to mobile, I was, you know, trying to just like dive into some mobile games and see what, you know, free to play stuff is all about and all that. But yeah, lately I haven't been playing too many games. I've mostly just been working. I love working on the game. To me, that's like playing. But I should be playing new games. Like I feel like I should be playing modern games and seeing like what, yeah, just how modern games do things. I know I played a ton of games growing up as a kid, but that was a while ago at this point, and so I don't want to like be stuck in like old ideas about how things work. Like one thing I'm curious about is I made BombSquad, like when you're low on life, you like flash. I'm curious if like, do modern games ever do that? That was a common thing back in like the original Nintendo or Super Nintendo. It's just like you're low on life, you flash. But I don't know if like I don't know if games have been doing that for the last like 10 or 20 years. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing here is, yeah, like online parties, squad system, like that's kind of like my biggest focus overall. I mean, the assets stuff in 1.8, like that's a big important piece of the puzzle too, because that'll open up, you know, me being able to like, you know, sell new skins and things like that, and hopefully move the game to be 100% like cosmetics based for how I make money from it. But also, yeah, then 1.9 is all going to be about like squads and online play, and just kind of, yeah, taking what works well about the game now and just moving that to, you know, cloud-based stuff and online-based stuff. Because again, when I started writing this, you know, I feel like local multiplayer, and, you know, my friend, like back, yeah, literally when I was writing this, my friends would all get together and we'd play, you know, like wire up 3 or 4 Xbox, the original Xbox, and played like giant games of Halo and stuff just at our apartment with like 16 people around. But I feel like stuff like that is more and more rare. You know, people don't do that anymore. Everything's online, so it's just like I want to make the game fully embrace, you know, online first. Well, you know, I still want it to work with like local multiplayer for, you know, the people that do that or have that, but it's just like that's a smaller and smaller piece of the pie, I think. Oh yeah, I was thinking about that. Like that's a common thing. I have seen that with like playing, you know, Fortnite and other games where it's like a ton of people. It's like you got to wait a while for enough people to join, and so you have a little like lobby where you're doing stuff. Like I think that would be cool. Like I'm trying to keep that in mind in terms of like the squad system, being able to do something like if you're if we want to implement a big tournament where you have to wait for 20 or 30 players to join the tournament, like those players could be in some little lobby, you're throwing bombs, or you could have like little mini games in the lobby or something like that, like who could throw the bomb the farthest, or target practice type stuff, or fun little things like that, or just let people fight, whatever. So what reason were the voices? So I've mentioned this. It was so that there used to be voices announcing the different game types, like onslaught, hockey, whatever. Um, I took that out kind of for two reasons. One is just because it was only in English, and I didn't want people playing in other languages to feel bad. Plus, it wouldn't match like what is on the screen if they translated it. And then secondly is because I wanted people to be able to make new game types, and wanted myself to be able to make new game types and have them not feel like second class. Um, so it seemed kind of weird where like the official game types would have names announced, but then like the like mod game types wouldn't. So I just took them out of the official ones. We could revisit that idea. I mean, we could put them back in, or we could record alternate language versions of them or something at some point if people really like that stuff. But that's why I took it out, is just to kind of like level the playing field. Okay, cool. Glad to see glad to see blinking works. Yeah, I that's an interesting topic too, is like the UI, like trying to keep things sort of minimal. Like I didn't it's hard to know like what's good, because it could be useful like having different, showing bar, if you showed your health bar the whole time or something like that. But then I do kind of hate in games when there's too much UI like that, where it's like I feel like you stop seeing like the landscape and the character designs, and all you see is like health bars. I remember playing like Warcraft 3 back in the day, and like my brother was really good. I never got really good at it, but like that was always something I didn't like about it, is that I felt like when we'd be playing Warcraft 3, like all we'd be looking at is like health bars. It's like you weren't actually watching the characters and watching the fighting and stuff. It was just like scanning health bars and casting spells on health bars. Yeah, it could be fun playing playing some online games. I know we had a Bomb Squad game going a few weeks ago. Um, I assume it was hosted somewhere in Europe, so like my lag was pretty bad. But that's okay. We could do that again or do other games. That'd be fun. Okay, what is this? Burp. Oh yeah, that's what I was mentioning. Or if this is what you're referring to, have the character standing there. Oh yeah, I guess this is two different things. I was mentioning like if there's a lobby where you're waiting for a bunch of players to join for something like like a tournament, or something big like that, then like all the players would be in there actually, like so you could do something while you wait, like fight the other dudes. But also, yeah, I think that would be great. Like the another thing that games like Fortnite and stuff do is when you're building a party, have your character standing there. I'd love to do that, especially like I want the game to kind of I want cosmetic stuff like cool skins and things like that to be something fun. And so like if you have your character standing there, like that definitely makes it more fun to have a cool looking character, because then everyone sees him. Up in Toy Story. Oh, at Pixar. Let's see the movies I worked on at Pixar. The first one was Ratatouille. When I got to Pixar, I worked on Ratatouille, and then I worked on Up, and then I was slightly involved in like Wall-E and Brave, um, and I did a lot on Cars too. It's not usually people's favorite Pixar movie, but it was really fun to work on because there were lots of explosions and fun effects. And then Monsters University, and I'm probably forgetting something here. Some of the shorts too, like there was Toy Story of Terror. It was like a Halloween special. That might have been my last thing I worked on actually, I think. So yeah, all in all, like 6 or 7 movies, something like that. I'm probably forgetting something, as I said. What do you think? Pro tips that most players use: triple fist or mind punch. I mean, again, I think it's awesome when people come up with techniques that, again, this is all like physics based. It's not like I designed a lot of these. It's just like people learning to use the physics in cool ways. Um, I think that's great. As I said, I want to, like if there's something that people feel is like an exploit, like one thing I added like the dizzy factor. People kept telling me that like people would just spin punch constantly before. So I added the thing where like if you're spinning for too long, it makes you dizzy and you pass out. So it's like, I want to prevent things from being too exploity and too overused and stuff. So, definitely holler if you feel like, something is being overused or should be nerfed a bit or something. Even though I haven't really been making too many gameplay changes recently, it's mostly been like this tech stuff working towards squads and, stuff like that. But at some point, like maybe when we're starting to do like the different scene protocols and like kind of evolving things that way, like it would be kind of interesting to slightly like evolve some of the gameplay, like nerf certain things a little bit or just rebalance things. Yeah, this is this is interesting. So on larger maps with football, camera pans out, making everything very small. So this is in a way, I mean, that's kind of by design because like my design constraint for BombSquad is I want it to be playable on a TV screen with everyone sitting there, and so it's like you can't, in that case, you need everything to be visible on one screen, and so currently that's how it is for all screens, even if you're playing by yourself on a phone, it still does that. It's like it could be good in that case, maybe to have it not zoom out all the way. But it's also like I do want it to like constrain it to maps where it's like on a TV or something like that it should be able to zoom out and see everybody. So it's like that's why I don't want to make maps too big to where like if you zoomed out to see everybody like it would just be ridiculous. So it's kind of like a constraint I want to have in there, so that the game is still playable local multiplayer. But there might be smarter ways to go about it. There might be like I said, with a phone or something, maybe it would zoom in, or maybe it would remain zoomed in and just show you like arrows where the other players are. Like if that makes sense, that's something we could add. Well, FPS locker removed. Yes. So I assume you're talking about like on Windows, it's locked to 60 FPS. That is definitely something I want to get rid of. What? Didn't know if that was someone saying something or just background noise. But yeah, like I definitely want to, like on Windows, like high frame rate monitors, we should support up to at least, like the game physics right now runs at 120 frames per second, so we should at least support that. We'd have to do something fancy to go beyond that, like if you have a 240 hertz monitor, like we technically don't have enough, like we don't have enough sim steps to show something like distinct at every frame, but we could like maybe do blending or something where it like blends positions to show in between frames. But that's on the to-do list probably before I get the game on Steam. There's a handful of things that need to be fixed in like the Linux and Windows versions, like the like Unicode Unicode font rendering. Like many of you have noticed, like in Arabic or languages, or a lot of Asian languages, you can't see the characters, you can't see text, and that's because we need to add support for like full Unicode rendering, so it can just render like the entire Unicode range. That's been implemented on like the Mac version, on the official Apple version, and on Android. But yeah, we need to get that added for like Windows and for Linux. I hope to do that at some point. Like I said, I'll definitely get that in there before officially launching on Steam or whatnot. But if someone in the meantime wants to look into that and tinker, and you'd have to dig into some of the graphics C++ code, but it's all in there. Here it is. It's like, yeah, graphics, text. Like this is the code that's responsible for that. Damaged B9000. Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, again, I'd love to. I would love to do more variations on existing characters or like better looking versions of them, stuff like that. That's something I want to do in 1.8 once that's possible. Once it's easy to just like upload a new character without like the challenge right now is if I want to upload a new character, I have to basically force everyone to update the game. Otherwise, like if you connect to a server that someone is playing with a character that your game doesn't have, like your game will crash. So it's kind of a big pain in the butt to like add new stuff because you have to make sure that it's like fully distributed before enabling it or whatever. So which is crappy because right now there's still a lot of people running older versions of the game like 1.4 or 1.5 or whatever, and so it's like I want to maintain compatibility as long as I can. At some point I'll have to cut it off, but yeah, I don't want to before we have to. Maybe a boss, yeah, that could be fun. Like going back to the idea of just being able to have different sized characters or be able to add new nodes like a super spaz or something like a giant spaz or who knows, or just a completely different thing altogether like a dragon or yeah, who whatever, just some completely like different physicsy thing, or like a small thing, like a baby spaz or like a penguin or something that would just be like one little rigid body bouncing around. Like that could be fun. You could pick it up and throw it like super far. Just like having more fun with physics. How did the idea of creating BombSquad start? So it was kind of two things. As I mentioned, part of it started as like it really started as like a fun weekend project. I had been working on like this game engine just as a hobby. Like I was in art school, and so it was weird that I was spending all my time coding, but I was. So I had been working on this game engine, but at some point it kind of was becoming clear after doing that for a few years that like, oh, I'm never actually gonna get this thing playable. Like I'm over engineering this and I'm over planning it, and it's just like too much stuff, and it's not actually like becoming a game. So Bomb Squad started as like this weekend project. Really, it's just like you know what? I'm just gonna make this little like toy game thing. I'm gonna spend like 3 days working on it. Make this little like kind of physicsy Bomberman thing, because I think I was experimenting with like rigid body physics and stuff at the time, and so it seemed kind of like a fun way to like learn how to do rigid body physics. Um, I think I was experimenting with that for, as I mentioned, I went into like visual effects and I was working in movies for a while, and so like that's what I was using rigid bodies for. I wanted to like learn how to use it for film purposes, but yeah, Bomb Squad started as a little like hobby just to like experiment with that stuff and kind of. I thought like, oh, well, maybe I'll make the little like physicsy Bomberman type game, and I'll spend 3 days on it. So that's really where the idea for Bomb Squad came from. Me and my roommates, we love playing Bomberman, so that's kind of why it started as like a Bomberman inspired. It started off as basically like Bomberman, and then it just like quickly evolved in a different direction. And the second kind of influence was probably like, as I mentioned, we always did Halo parties. So we're always playing big games of Halo, and so a lot of like capture the flag, and Halo had a lot of different game modes that we play. So kind of was inspired by that. So I was like, I'll make it sort of Bomberman-ish, but add some different play modes like King of the Hill, capture the flag, stuff like that. And then it just kind of evolved from there, and it got more into the physics, and just kind of kept going. For years, it was like I didn't have any intention of actually releasing the game. It was just something that I made for fun, played with like family and friends, like at holidays, or when friends would come over. Like between rounds of Halo, we'd play some Bomb Squad. But then at some point, like years later, some friends of mine, actually the Zombie Gunship friends, they had started doing like iPhone apps because the iPhone was just released like a year before that, and they were having a ton of success. Like they released like Zombie Gunship and Tower Madness and some iPhone games that did pretty good. And so then I was playing Bomb Squad with them, and then they're like, dude, Eric, you gotta like clean this up and release it like on a store. Oh, hello. But yeah, so that's kind of the story of how Bomb Squad came about. Is like my iPhone developer friends kind of convinced me to take my little pet project and clean it up and put it out on the App Store. So I did, and I did pretty well. And so then at some point I decided to just do that full time, and now here I am. Yes. Yeah, this is interesting. Like, just decrease the size of spaz. Like one kind of interesting thing with doing stuff with physics based stuff is like doing that. Just making stuff bigger or smaller is very tricky. If you've ever like read about in physics, like the reason that we don't have like giant insects is because basically volume scales cubically and surface area scales whatever is squared. The function is squared. So like an animal the size of an elephant is completely built different from like an animal the size of an ant, just because of how the physics works. So like you couldn't scale an ant up to the size of an elephant and have it work. It would like completely just collapse under its own weight. You see like an elephant, like its legs are like right under its torso, and an ant they're like to the side and things like that. So it's interesting with physics where you can't just like scale things and have them behave the same. So you kind of have to take that into account when you're doing like physics-based simulations or games or things like that. It's like things behave very differently if you scale them up. Yes, we have our voice actor. That brings up a question actually. Is like I'm sure a lot of you here are like modders or just fans of the game or something, and I'm curious. I hope just rambling about technical stuff. I hope this isn't like boring you all, or like I'm like addressing things that are like a good level that some people are able to learn stuff. I hope it's not like too high or too low or whatever. So let me know if it is. If like slow down, Eric. Like explain this better. Oh no, not your bad. I mean, there's ways you can kind of cheat that stuff. Um, like one thing I did. This is probably getting too in depth, but um, as I said, in real life, like volume scales quicker than surface area or than cross section, which means that like big animals don't or the physics is completely different for big animals than it is for like small animals. But you can actually cheat that. Like one thing that I did it with my simulator that I wrote for Pixar is I did cheat that where I made like volume like scales the same way as cross section or something like that. So you could actually scale something up and it would behave the same. So it is possible to kind of, even though that's not how the real world works, like you can still kind of cheat that. You can cheat things and make them functionally work that way. So I'd probably do that with BombSquad. If like it would be great, like the another tangent is it would be great to be able to scale stuff, like to be able to like just take a spaz and say like, hey, scale all of this up. So like all the rigid bodies are bigger, all of the joints and the constraints are bigger, everything's bigger, but it would still work. We don't have any like way to do that right now. You'd have to do a lot of math. You'd basically have to say like, okay, I'm gonna like double the size of these cylinders, and I'm gonna double the size of this sphere, and like you'd have to kind of do it all manually, and then do a bunch of math to get the masses right and stuff. But it'd be great to just be able to say like, hey, take this thing and scale it by 2. Like if we had like an API to do that. So I'd love to add that. Oh, unused audio? Yeah, I some of this I don't actually remember. I mean, it's been so long since I added the audio or since I wired the audio up. That was for the original like 2011 release. So there were some. I think there were some files that wound up being unused. Some that just seemed like unnecessary or just in playtesting, it felt better to just like reuse the same few sounds for those cases versus having a specific one. So there's probably I'm sure there's some in there that just never got used. There's something fun about like coding by just changing values. I mean, I do that. Like if I'm trying to learn some code that it does physics or something else that I don't understand yet, I'll just like change values and see what happens. But I think it's also good to like at some point learn what the code does and kind of approach it that way as opposed to just like twisting knobs and seeing what happens. but that's definitely an important part of it, is, experimenting. Though I think that's a lesson I always try to tell people, is like, try to understand the code once at some point. It's like, don't just copy and paste and wonder why it's not working. Yeah, I think I'll upload this, even though I guess we're almost 12 o'clock my time, so we'll have to wrap up here soon. But I'll go ahead and just upload this whole thing, even though it's a lot of just like random Q&As and stuff. But hopefully it's useful if anyone wants to watch it. So yes, hi to YouTube. Previously, I had been uploading just like the first 20 minutes, or like when there was like specific topics. I'd upload the 20 minutes to YouTube and then not the other hour and a half. But this has been pretty like consistently, questions and stuff. So I'll just upload the whole thing. Last time when I did the live coding at the last office hours, which was 3 weeks ago at this point. I missed 2 weeks. But yeah, that was the first time where I uploaded like the full 2 hours. It took forever to like process on YouTube. I've never done that before. But so you'll probably, if any of you watch this on YouTube, you'll probably get like the SD version of it within a few hours once it's processed, and then like the HD version will show up, 10 hours later or something. Once that's done, it takes it a while. I guess that was more important last week because it was, or the last time, because I was showing coding and stuff. This is more talking, so you don't need HD for talking. But yeah, when I'm showing code on screen, it's so like unreadable at the SD versions. Though I'm using my smaller screen now, so I guess hopefully everything looks a little bit bigger. Well, on that note, I might call it a day now if anyone has any last questions. I need to get to lunch, and then I probably should get to work. I'd love to hop into play, maybe next week or something like that, but I probably got to get to work this week since I've been gone for like a week. I have so much stuff I'm behind on. Oh, who voicing characters? Some of them are me. Some of them are like kind of free audio I found on the internet. One of them is my buddy Raph, he was my old roommate who started working on the game with me. I think Spaz is still Raph's voice. So yeah, a combination of things. It'd be fun to like hire a professional voice actor or something sometime. All right, I'll wait another moment. Any other last questions, comments, thoughts? And so yeah, hopefully next week I will get back to having something more new and substantial to show. Maybe I'll have like an early version of the sandboxing stuff for people to play with. That would be fun. But we'll see. Or maybe I'm not sure if I'll work on trying to finish sandboxing or if I'll work on the Google Play accounts, because that's important too. I definitely want to get that in there, because then that'll open up a lot of new functionality for people. It is interesting. Like over the years, like BombSquad has been popular in different parts of the world. Like when I originally launched on like just the Mac App Store, like it wound up being very popular in like Germany. And then, years later on Android, it's wound up being popular in like South America, and India is a big one, and Russia is decently big. Mexico is big. Like Mexico is actually a lot bigger than the U.S. And I'm curious why that is. I think part of it, like the U.S. is largely iPhones. Like if you look down here, there's so many green dots in like Mexico and South America compared to like the U.S. Not too many green dots. That might largely be because I think U.S. is more iPhone people, and still not, sorry iPhone people, but yeah, still not out on iPhone yet. 2.0 is the plan for that, if anyone's not aware. But yeah, it's interesting to see like where in the world, like there's a lot of, India is pretty big. A lot of folks down this area, not too many in Africa, though a few at the north here. So Anyway, so it's been fun, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll get this up on YouTube soon. And otherwise, I will talk to you folks next week. I should be done with traveling, so I should be around for office hours every Wednesday, at least until Christmas or so. But anyway, talk to you folks later. Cheers.